On Friday, Donald Trump stated that he did not sign the Alien Enemies Act invocation, the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, that is, where he invoked wartime powers, where he then kidnapped about 200 and 300 people he claimed were Venezuelan gang members and then shipped them to an El Salvador concentration camp. Trump said he never signed it. He said he left it to other people to sign. That despite the fact that Donald Trump, his name is on the invocation of the Alien Enemies Act by President of the United States, Donald Trump. And you see it in the Federal Register right there, signed Donald Trump in witness whereof. It's signed essentially under oath. Now Donald Trump's regime is saying that that's not what he said. They are saying that he was referring to the original Alien Enemies Act that was signed in 1798. They said it was obvious that he was saying that he did not live in the 18th century to sign the 1798 one, but he signed the one on March 14th or 15th. Let me just play for you what it is that Donald Trump said on Friday in response to a question from a reporter saying there was a federal court hearing on Friday where a judge wanted answers to when you signed it, where you signed it, who are the people who you are sending to concentration camps in El Salvador. In response to this question, here's what Donald Trump said. Let's play it.
It doesn't sound like this judge who the DOJ is arguing with today about the deportation flights. He wants to know why the proclamation was signed in the dark, his words, and why people were rushed onto planes.
Because we want to get criminals out of our country, number one, and I don't know when it was signed because I didn't sign it. Other people handled it. But Marco Rubio's done a great job, and he wanted them out, and we go along with that. We want to get...
So it seems pretty clear that he was responding to a question about his signing of the Alien Enemies Act in the past week, not in the 18th century. No one was asking him if he took a time machine back to 1798. But this is the statement by the White House. They're not even good liars. They're horrible liars. They just swamp you with lie after lie after lie that you just get overwhelmed by it and go, oh, I guess he was talking about 1798. Here's what he says. Here's what the White House, this is the statement from the White House. President Trump was obviously referring to the original Alien Enemies Act that was signed back in 1798. The recent executive order was personally signed by President Trump invoking the Alien Enemies Act that designated Tren de Aragua as a foreign terrorist organization in order to apprehend and deport these heinous criminals. Now, one of my theories was that Donald Trump realizes that a lot of the people he sent to El Salvador and put them in concentration camps are actually not Venezuelan gang members, but are people who were here lawfully seeking asylum, who they gave zero process to at all. Nobody got due process. Nobody got the ability to prove that they weren't gang members, or as Donald Trump calls them, terrorist enemy combatants. And so I think Trump wants to try to either throw his Department of Justice under the bus or throw Marco Rubio, his Secretary of State, under the bus and tried to blame them. I think that was Donald Trump's instinct right there. During the Friday court hearing that was held by Chief Judge of Washington, D.C.'s federal courthouse, Judge Jeb Boasberg, some of the evidence that came out from lawyers of these individuals who are now lost in the concentration camp systems. For example, an ACLU lawyer said that women were sent to El Salvador and the concentration camps only accept men. So some of these women were sent to Venezuela where they may have been fleeing the Maduro regime. So who knows what's going to happen when they go back to the brutal dictator, who would do horrible things to them. Who knows what's going on there? Also, I've shared the story in other reporting, but there was a declaration submitted by a lawyer of one of the individuals now lost in the concentration camp systems in El Salvador, who was here lawfully, sought asylum, according to the lawyer, was a political exile of the Maduro regime, had a Real Madrid, the football club, tattoo, and and made a hand gesture of peace or love. And on that basis, the Trump regime found this individual in the asylum system because this person was here lawfully, ship that person to concentration camps in El Salvador. So I think Trump's trying to basically throw Marco Rubio, throw the Department of Justice, throw under the bus and try to protect himself. I think we've seen this before with him. So here, for example, is Trump at the joint session a few weeks back, early March, where he said, if things go wrong, I'm going to blame Rubio. Here, play this clip.
And we have Marco Rubio in charge. Good luck, Marco. Now, we know who to blame if anything goes wrong. Marco's been amazing, and he's going to do a great job. Think of it. He got 100 votes.
Now, there are two theories here. I mean, number one, Donald Trump is just, three theories. Number one, he didn't sign it. And he left it to other people to sign it, and he doesn't sign things. Number two, he did sign it, and he's throwing people under the bus right now. Number three, he has some form of dementia, and it could be a combination of these. I don't know, in my opinion. It could be one of these three, maybe. He has some sort of a dementia-like behavior, and he can't even speak anymore. All of those would be alarming and, in my opinion, disqualifying. And as you explore these theories, for example, like let me show you when Donald Trump was having this interview with Laura Ingraham in the past week, he was asked like the most basic question about his son Barron. Like, what do you think about Barron? And like, do you think Barron's more of like a tech guy? And Donald's like, oh, he's so smart. He can open a computer. The way he opens a computer is so smart. Here, play this clip.
Well, is Barron's aptitude, in your view, business or politics?
Maybe technology. He can look at a computer. I'd try turning off his car. I'd turn it off. I'd turn off his laptop. I said, oh, good. And I go back 5 minutes later, he's got his laptop. I said, how'd you do that? None of your business, Dad. No, he's got an unbelievable aptitude in technology.
And then I think that the people who Trump surrounds himself with, or people who are flocked to Donald Trump, they have to make him seem like smart, so they have to act even stupider than they already are. So Trump's Vice President J.D. Vance, for example, at this bizarre Oval Office press conference Donald Trump held on Friday morning, where he said, we're gonna get rid of the F-35s in the future. We're gonna do F-47s. F-47 is the most ridiculous thing. And then he asked J.D. Vance, hey, J.D. Vance went to Yale Law School. Okay, J.D. Vance, you'd say a lot about him, but he's a smart guy. He acts stupid and he behaves horrifically, but he's a guy who went to Yale Law School. So he's asked about the airplane, the F-47s, and JD's like, I think it's cool. Cool, man. Cool, dude. I think it's cool, dude. Watch. By the way, JD Vance is becoming the JD Vance meme right there that you can see. By the way, at that same press conference that Donald Trump held that I just showed you, he said he wants to give our allies worse weapons when the U.S. sells weapons to them because they may not be our allies soon. So he's going to give them degraded weapons and not the weapons how we use them. Here, play this clip.
That's the other thing. Energy is going to be like it's never been before. Mr. Vice President is here. Do you have anything to say while you're here? He's a very good Vice President.
I'm just here to watch the show, sir. Okay. I think airplanes are pretty cool, so I want to go check this out.
Cool. It is cool.
Sorry, I digressed there, but I thought it was important that I show that to you. This is from the White House press secretary. Here she is right here, Caroline Leavitt. And you could see for yourself what she had to say about invoking the Alien Enemies Act and that Donald Trump signed it.
President Trump signed a proclamation invoking the Alien Enemies Act regarding the invasion of the United States by the foreign terrorist organization Tren de Aragua. At the president's direction, the Department of Homeland Security carried out a counter-terrorism operation deporting nearly 200 violent Tren de Aragua terrorists, which will save countless American lives.
I want to talk briefly. I want to show you another video that we made here, but I want to talk briefly. A lot of people ask me about the research that I do and what tools that I use to research. I use something called Ground News to get a lot of my news, to see what are people covering on the left, what are people covering on the right, what are people covering in the center. And I use their feature called their blind spot feature. And their blind spot feature lets you burst out of your own political bubble and helps you avoid selective reporting. And so I want to find how are people on the right covering this? How are people on the left covering this? Am I missing anything? So when I give you these presentations, I'm hitting all aspects of it. And you've seen me, talk about Ground News before. And I think that it's a research tool that you should use. And I think it's a great way to consume news. And I think it's essential nowadays. So if you go to ground.news/MTN or scan the QR code, we're going to give our viewers 40% off Ground News top tier Vantage plan, which will get you unlimited access to everything I've shown you and more. Ground News is subscriber funded. They don't rely on ads that could also introduce bias. Subscribing supports our channel and their independent team working to keep the media transparent. One more time, go to ground.news/MTN or scan the QR code. We're giving our viewers 40% off. It's great. Just try it out and just look at the website. All right, back to my video right here. I want to share with you this video that we made on the MeidasTouch network, exploring one of these theories about frontotemporal dementia. Now, I want to be clear here. I'm not a medical doctor. I've spoken to a lot of medical doctors. I don't want to let Donald Trump off the hook by blaming it on something that's very serious, because Trump is so evil and horrific that there's no sympathy for this awful human being. But I think when you see this video we prepared, I think it hits the elements. But again, it's just an opinion. Tell me what you think. Play this clip.
And my stupid people, when I wanted to refute it, they said, "Sir, don't dignify it with a rebuttal."
Have you been noticing peculiar behavior recently in someone you know?
Carried out by Ray.
Someone who mixes fiction and reality?
The late, great Hannibal Lecter. He's a wonderful man.
Perhaps someone of advanced age you have known for years.
Did you just see Maduro, Venezuela? It's unbelievable, Venezuela.
Of course, we all have our goofs. But consistently odd behavior can be a sign of frontotemporal dementia, a degenerative disease of the frontal and temporal lobes of the brain that dramatically impairs cognitive function. And there are some key signs to look out for, like slurring words.
The failing New York Times by anonymous, really anonymous.
Struggling to find the correct words is another sign.
The Mueller report, I wish, covered the oranges of the investigation.
You may also notice someone veering into incoherent ideas, detached from reality.
You know what I'd do if there was a shark or you get electrocuted? I'll take electrocution every single time. I'm not getting near the shark.
Or an inability to complete simple sentences.
Saudi Arabia and Russia will repeat.
Other notable symptoms include impaired motor function, such as a wavering limb, and decreased balance, often accompanied by a signature lean or arched stance. If someone you know is demonstrating several or all of these symptoms, they are seriously unwell. As a matter of safety, they must be relieved of critical responsibilities and disqualified from any position of authority. Remember, frontotemporal dementia is a degenerative disease. Cognitive function will never return and will only deteriorate further. Don't ignore the signs.
And remember when Donald Trump was in the Oval Office in the past week and he was talking about, he was attacking former President Biden for, he had this like auto pen conspiracy, and he was like, none of the pardons by former President Biden, or he goes, Joe, none of them are real because he did auto pens. And who doesn't know what they sign or don't sign? Here's what Trump said. Let's play it.
You have to do is take a look at he signs by auto pen. Who is signing all this stuff by auto pen? Who would think you sign important documents by auto pen? You know, these are major documents you're signing. You're proud to sign them. You have your signature on something. In 300 years, they say, oh, look, Can you imagine? Everything was signed by AutoPen, almost everything. Nobody's ever heard of such a thing, so should have never happened.
And here's when Donald Trump was asked if he ever used AutoPen. Let me show it to you right here.
And you'll make your own determination.
You have criticized President Biden for using AutoPen in the last few days. Have you yourself ever used AutoPen, sir?
Yeah, only for very unimportant papers. And I don't call them unimportant. If you do letters where people write in and, you know, they'd love to have a response, and we'll write responses, and I'll sign them whenever I can, but when I can't, I, you know, would use an AutoPen. But to use them for what they've used them for is terrible.
Yes, sir.
It's always projection and confession with that guy, huh? But it's just outrageous to me that now they're going with what he really meant is that he didn't sign the one in 1789. Like everything they say is a lie. You have to know and it's all about telling the big lie. Because, you know, people go, oh, I go through who would make that up? Trump. He's a con artist. He's a fraud. He's been found liable for fraud. This is what he does. This is a Ponzi scheme rug pull presidency where they're just going to lie on top of lies and compound it with dangerous, dangerous consequences. But we're going to keep exposing it here at the MeidasTouch Network. Shout out again to Ground News, ground.news/MTN. Shout out to those folks over there. Get that 40% off. Thank you. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 5 million.
Can't get enough Meidas? Check out the Meidas Plus Substack for ad-free articles, reports, podcasts, daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, and more. Sign up for free now at MeidasPlus.com.